It's June 23rd, another beautiful day here in Northeast Ohio. Uh, day or so ago, we got about another inch of rain, but we didn't get the wind or the hail or the tornado warnings like we did in the previous storms we had. So I always welcome more rain because it dries out here so quickly when it doesn't rain for a couple weeks. So um, I planted a tree this morning. There was a tree here. It was a blue spruce, but it's this location tends to be wet most of the time, unless we get a real dry spell. And it was about half dead, a little bit of green at the top still, but I don't think it was going to make it too much longer. So I planted this, which is a river birch. It likes wet locations, so it should do real well here. Now, these other two trees are same as the one I just cut out, but as you can see, they're not looking too good. They're about 25 years old and they're not much more than 10 to 12 foot tall, which they should be twice that big and kind of spindly looking. So I'm thinking it's not going to be long before I'll be taking these out also. But I get a enjoyment out of planting trees. Seems like they're more permanent. I like planting anything and watching it grow, but trees, I know if I plant them in the right place and give them a good start, they're going to be here for a lot of years, for a lot longer than I'm going to be around for sure. These blue spruce are probably 5 to 10 years younger than the ones I just showed you, so you can see the difference when they get planted in the conditions that promote their growth. The best trees are the one that God plants. This is a oak tree, and I remember where it's now at used to be a white pine, and it was a pretty big one. It was probably at the base 2 foot in circumference, and it succumbed to white pine blister rust, which eventually kills the tree. And as I was cutting it down, I noticed this little sprig at the bottom. I could tell it was an oak tree because it had, the little leaves on it just let me know. And it was probably only 2 inches high, so I made sure not to damage it and just let it grow. And here it is today, 15 years or so later. Should be here a lot more years and get a lot bigger as time goes on. Here's one of the bass I just caught from my pond. Once in a while I'll come out and throw in a line, but I take the barb off of the hook so I don't injure them, and I return them right to the water as soon as I can. So I just wanted to show you one of the fish that are in the pond. Here's another decent sized one I just caught. That seems to be about the average size that I catch. I do catch some smaller ones and a couple a little bit bigger ones, but yeah, this was a pretty good fighter. So I'm gonna unhook him and put him back in the water. About time to feed the koi again. Oh, I see a lot of bass hanging out around that koi castle I put in a couple weeks ago. Not sure if you can see them or not. They're all about inch and a halfers. Maybe last year's fish. The ones this year I don't think are that big yet. So seems like the pond's pretty healthy. A lot of fish in there, as you can see from the bass I caught earlier. All right, so here's the koi. Always seem to be anxious to eat. Yeah, them big bass that I just caught is the reason why I'm not releasing these any sooner than I have to. Wow. Yeah. Really made a splash there. So, I think they scared themselves, so they're probably not going to eat anymore right now. But yeah, them bass that I showed you earlier could definitely eat them up in one swallow. So, well, I guess that's it. I'll talk to you later. Here are the trees that I bought at the Soil and Water Conservation District. They have a spring tree sale, and as you can see, I usually buy more than I know where to plant them. So I put them in these nursery pots, and eventually I'll figure out a place where they'll find their permanent home. About 80% of them survive no matter how well you take care of them. They come bare rooted, and then you just have to have the pots in the dirt ready, or at least know where you want to directly plant them, so that you can get them in the ground as soon as possible. And like I said, I'll figure out some place to put them here as time goes on. I often talk about preparedness, and not just I think about not just food and water and shelter. One of the important things is if there's some sort of an event that happens in your area, whether it's weather related or whatever, as long as you have access to power, solar generator, gas generator, you need entertainment. You know, you're going to be sitting there, not a lot to do. Maybe you can't leave the house because of the weather, or if there's some sort of civil unrest in your area. That I have a bunch of DVDs with old movies on them. Most of them I've seen, maybe all of them I've seen, but now how comforting would it be in a situation like that to be able to watch one of your old favorite movies, maybe eat some popcorn. That can be stored for long term, and if it's stored right. So yeah, I mean, think about entertainment, especially if you have kids. They're gonna want to be able to feel calm, feel a little bit of a sense of normality, and that's what it always seems like is what we reach for in situations like that, is that sense of normality. So have something like that added to your preps, which I think probably a lot of people do have, the old DVDs. Just don't throw them out, you know, even though everything's online now, that you might not have access to that in the grid down situation. So that's it for now. I'm going to enjoy the rest of the day. Hope you're all having a great day. Take care. Bye.